Good morning, friends. Today, on duty with us are 10 number 2 from Brazil, southern Russia, 10 number 1, Britain, Galil Ma'aravi, and Israel, 10 number 23. From the Rabash. In order to have fuel to work, in order to bestow and not to receive any reward, but the work itself will be the reward, we must believe in Him, meaning to believe in His greatness. We must make great efforts to obtain faith in the greatness of the Creator. Without faith in the greatness of the Creator, there is no power to work in order to bestow. Precisely when we feel the greatness of the Creator, a person is ready to work without any reward. Instead, the work itself is the reward, since serving a great king is more valuable to him than any fortune in the world, compared to the service that the Creator permits him to come in and serve Him. Hence, we must focus all our thoughts on how to come to feel the greatness of the Creator, and then everything follows that point. Workshop question. Describe the stages through which we build the point of the greatness of the Creator between us from the beginning and through to the end of the lesson. Also describe how and in what manner we will keep adding to and increasing it. Each one adds to his friend's words. Again, describe the stages through which we build the point of the greatness of the Creator between us from the beginning and through to the end of the lesson. Also describe how and in what manner we will keep adding to it and increasing it. Each one adds to his friend's words.
The point of greatness of the Creator between us, we can build it through mutual concern, that every friend makes sure that the friends have the greatness of the Creator in a way that we're all aimed at a certain common point that nourishes all of us like a spring. And we only ask for it to be filled with this force of bestowal that raises all the friends above their desires.
Perhaps to keep increasing it, we need to restart, so to speak, every time. To start anew. Not to look at our current situation and where we can aspire to, or what we can aspire to. And from there on, we keep adding more of these restarts, so to speak, and make sure that we're in the right direction.
And then, even though a person perhaps does the preparation, he starts relatively cold and it seems artificial and there are no feelings. And even a person hates it, doesn't want it, and he has other arrangements or concerns, etc. But by annulling before the friends and trying to play with the friends, then he gets gradually warmed up until he doesn't understand what there's to do in life besides clinging to the greatness of the Creator.
And throughout the lesson, someone or several people receive a special kind of awakening, and this is a time where one needs to expend all of his energy at that point, to know that he's like the cantor, the prayer leader of the 10 at that point. And he needs to lift all of the friends to that state of his recognition of the Creator's greatness.
This example of being the public messenger is a really good example how we always need to hold as the messenger of the 10 and always make the greatness of the Creator greater. Same with now in the lesson, to always search for how the light influences, how the relation to the friends changes, how the natural concern awakens within, and how the light works in practice. These are the most beautiful signs.
We've begun the lesson, we're beginning the lesson, and each one comes here with whatever state he woke up with, perhaps not exploding with gratitude, or perhaps he's exploding with gratitude and thinking about there's none else besides him, or maybe he's just like a beast, and we begin to generate warmth, and each one does what he can, acting before the friends. And so with these circuits of annulment, we ignite the engine, and the greatness of the Creator extends.
And the greatness of the Creator begins to live, it begins to spread within us. And even if it doesn't, so we work without flavor, without pleasure, and great, we play with it. It doesn't matter if it turns on from above or not. We have to do the work. We have to put in the effort devotedly. And if it doesn't turn on, then we play as if it's turned on. And that's the clinging of in adhesion.
Yeah, and when it turns on, you can ask for it to turn on.
That's the main thing, because the greatness of the Creator, we always have to remember that we cannot finish the job. And we have to make it, as if we turn it on, like a kid who plays with a car. There's an addition here, which is some unclear connection between what we do in this world, which is all intentions in order to receive, surely, but there's also a surrounding light that turns these efforts to something else.
And each time, if we develop sensitivity towards one another, we can come to a higher degree. And this is because we begin to care a little more for the external vessels, what appears to me is the 10 right now, which is actually me on the next degree. Each time, through these repeated efforts, like, I don't know if childbirth is the right way to put it, like these birth pangs, to keep making more efforts to live in the friends and to go to that war again and again of not thinking about myself but seeing all of my life through the 10.
And this 10 expands in front of your eyes with all the friends from the world Kli who blow you up with greatness all the time. Look at Toronto and then your center. It's all just so wonderful. You can't stay indifferent to it. And It's how this force brings all the friends in a weird way together and collects them to do the work of the Creator. It's like this turbo.
If a person is indifferent, it's a gift. It's a gift because he can make an effort and be grateful as if he has great importance. The opportunity to sit here, to engage in this, to have some contact with this, even from the furthest point away from it.
To surf, to connect to the ten like a cable and a plug.
Friends, we remind you that we do not use cell phones during the lesson, with the exception of friends on duty who have received authorization to do so. Anyone who wants to ask a question, please stand up, hold the microphone close to your mouth, and speak loud and clear. Now, in preparation for the lesson, we read the Rav's words and prepare together. We have to pray to the Creator. I say it with all seriousness. The 10 prays together for a few minutes and asks for what it thinks is important for it. It is important for it, to the 10, to receive these discernments and feel these things, and to receive strength for it. Turn to the Creator, sit together for a few minutes and ask, each one quietly to himself. This is very important. Let's commence prayer.
Shalom.
We'll begin today's lesson with texts about the greatness of the Creator. We continue with a document full of these excerpts. We are at item 20. Hello, Rav. Rav, hello. We see you. Can you hear us? Do you hear us, Rav?
Rav Shalom, Boker Tov.
Hello, Rav. Good morning. We can see you.
Hello, everyone. We are in the lesson, a special lesson, a morning lesson in a special way. In the meantime, we are a bit far in distance from each other, but we arrange it in a way that it doesn't bother us, and actually we can even use it to advance a bit more than usually. And those who hear it have the opportunity. A person should check whether all sorts of exercises that the Creator does, that we are doing, doesn't matter how you accept it. Of course, it all comes from above if it happens eventually. All those things shouldn't push a person away from the goal. On the contrary, one should interpret it as better conditions to advance to the goal. So, let's advance. So we are
Item 20.
Item 20, about the greatness of the Creator. We can truly talk about it at length, and we can talk about it shortly. It depends on how we want to talk about it. Because the Creator is a force that fulfills everything, does everything, all that we feel and see, and even what I'm doing now, it's all the Creator who does it through the created beings, and the created beings have nothing of themselves, and what He created, the will to receive, He has to fulfill the will to receive and guide the will to receive. And so there's nothing that we do on our own. It's all the actions of the Creator. There's none else besides Him. But we were given an opportunity, even though the Creator created us, even though He manages and governs and guides and sustains us and does all the actions through us, yet we were given a special opportunity to be independent. And to the extent that we become like Him, we are independent. And then we are called independent, and those unique individuals who acquired the faith in the Creator, the sense of the Creator, and they work the way the Creator wants, but they do it on their own. And this already takes me to the first question. What does it mean that all people are completely similar to beasts, meaning they are operated unknowingly by the Creator, and they feel themselves through the limitations of their perception, they think they're free, but there's no one free. They're operated by the Creator. And actually, the ones who discover the Creator and try to be like the Creator 100%, going against their desire, my sons have defeated me. They are similar to the Creator completely, and yet they're independent. Please. Try to refine the question, ask it more accurately, and then answer it. If something's unclear, ask. Go ahead.
The question is indeed unclear to me. Yes, so let's begin to refine it.
I can say it once again. We know that the Creator created a will to receive, and He grows and develops and arranges, structures the will to receive. And surely the will to receive completely depends on the upper light. And it necessarily follows the actions of the upper light on it. We can see it through the still, vegetative, animate, and even human beings and how they operate. That's one. Two, there is an ability for people who the Creator chooses. They have the ability to acquire the forces of the Creator and make actions on their own, but actions to resemble Him. And then they become free. Free of what? That the Creator doesn't operate them at 1 or 2% or even 100%, depending on what degree they're on, but rather they operate themselves similarly to the Creator. So, the question is, what's the difference between being operated by the Creator without knowing it and operating myself similar to the Creator with knowing it and making an effort and by faith?
The whole difference, that's what we learn here, is we learn how to operate ourselves in the direction of the quality of bestowal towards the quality of the light. It's different than to just flow through life. If we just flow through life, there's no resonance to it. And the final product here will be a man who works independently. Yes, there's no words even to describe this divergence. One thinks he's alive, and another sees a reality which he could never imagine, with a completely new mind, completely new reason. It's a question that sounds very simple. Is the point you start from is there's none else besides him, or there's none else besides me? But in terms of how it feels, a person who doesn't know that there's none else besides him, just a regular person, he makes his usual regular efforts. He's imprisoned within his world, though he doesn't feel so. He feels that he's operating, acting properly, he's free and happy as much as he can. He makes an effort. And we, in our state, we feel always our limits because of the fact that there's none else besides him. And we need to make a decision on our own and to participate in the game that he manufactures for us.
What's the difference being operated by the Creator unknowingly and operating? Well, there's the goal. There's always this diagram that Rav draws with like the man and the beast, and how the man has a head on top that looks upwards, and that's a difference. The beast is beaten and moves from pleasure to pain, from between pleasure and pain, and the person already looks for faith.
Yes, but the goal is a deeper matter, is about consciousness and awareness. The difference between a robot and a person, they both respond to what happens. They both try to optimize their behaviors to achieve maximal gains. So soon we'll have robots that do that perfectly, like me, but the ability to be aware, conscious of reality, there's something else to that.
It seems that this personality, this I that sits in us, is what distorts and doesn't allow to attain anything and consciously. There's these levels of moving away from yourself by the environment.
Perhaps you can look at the axis of human development in regards to his discovery of who's operating him. In any case, a person operates not of his own volition. Someone is pushing the buttons, and the measure of awareness of it, consciousness, that's what changes. And for that, a person needs to change from the foundation. He needs to be like the operator. But he's never operating on his own, whether he's aware of it or not. He's only discovering.
I would add that there's also a process of development. The ordinary person thinks he's pushing buttons, and the person who develops at first looks for buttons to press. Then he understands there are no buttons. Rather, there's this one giant button that's being pressed by someone else, and perhaps he himself is the button. Meaning, the attitude to life is fundamentally different.
The area where one works is completely different, replaced. This world remains this world, and you need to move from here to there. You understand that there's destiny, but you need to do what you need to do, and we have only the inner dimension in which to work. And there you need to activate these forces with the friends. It doesn't come from me. I can only ask for them to have these powers. It's a different plane altogether.
It's on the level of the 10. A person who develops understands that his form of existence is not separated at all the way he thought, and that all his life and all his pleasure and his sense of life, he receives it from this sort of welding point that is the connection between the friends and the 10, where he has the window into this broad reality that he can look into.
Mainly it's the contrast and the gap created between these people who walk the path of bestowal and the revelation of their ego, which...
Rav, what exactly does a person acquire by becoming similar to the Creator and governing himself instead of the Creator, the way the Creator governs him, as he governs the still vegetative and animate degrees, and the degree of the human does not exist, and by acquiring the similarity to the Creator so as to conduct himself the way the Creator does. That's why it's called a wise disciple, learning from the Creator how to govern himself. So what exactly does he acquire by that? What's happening to him? A certain degree rises in him instead of the beastly degree, a degree where he is similar to the Creator and he attains the Creator. So, as we just read, sorry, we haven't read the excerpt, but we talked about item 20, reading it. So let's read it then and move forward.
Item 20 from the Rabash. The article is, what is do not add and do not take away in the work? One must believe above reason and imagine that he has already been rewarded with faith in the Creator that is felt in his organs. And he sees and feels that the Creator leads the entire world as the good and benevolent. Although, when he looks within reason, he sees the opposite, he should still work above reason, and it should appear to him as though he can already feel his organs, feel in his organs that it is really so, that the Creator leads the world as the good who does good. Here he acquires the importance of the goal, and from here he derives life, meaning joy at being near the Creator. Then a person can say that the Creator is good and benevolent, and feel that he has the strength to tell the Creator, "You have chosen us from among all nations. You have loved us and wanted us," since he has a reason to thank the Creator. And to the extent that he feels the importance of spirituality, so he establishes the praise of the Creator.
So we see it like this. One needs to have faith above reason, as if and paint a picture as though he already has the sensation of the Creator in his organs. Why the feeling of the Creator in one's organs, that we feel Him in all our vessels, our thoughts, desires, actions, impressions, as it's called, that the Creator dresses into the person. Why is that degree called the degree of faith? To continue the sentence, that he feels that the Creator runs the world by way of the good that does good. So why is this feeling, which is a factual thing, called faith? Please.
What are one's organs? If his organs are the vessels, the beastly vessels with which he was born, there's nothing to speak of. But if his organs are his friends, his organs that are drooping down, and he looks at them saying that they're the greatest of the generation, they're above everyone else, they're the most wonderful people there are, and through them he receives nourishment and livelihood and so on. It's a different thing.
Also, we talk about the feeling the person is not controlled by the feeling and goes from up to down and down to up. Rather, he uses the feeling and turns it from potential to actual.
It seems that if a person isn't within his own feelings, his own vessels, it's called faith. And he needs to believe above reason. So above reason means faith.
Faith is not a new reason. There's what a person feels, and he identifies the situation and the state of lowliness, and he chooses to take someone else's reason. And someone else could be the environment, it could be the Kabbalist who attained reality from a different perspective, and a person can cling to him.
Yes, precisely he writes here that one needs to work in this and that it seems to him as though he's in that. We
remain with the feeling and the desire and on this level where we are, but we build something else together. And again, this is not something I can do on my own. I feel how much I want him, I yearn for him, but that's why it's also called higher. It's higher in my importance, higher in my yearning.
Love. Meaning that it's something that we need to imagine to ourselves, right? As if we've already been awarded with the sensation of the Creator in our organs. Not all of them, perhaps part of them. Some of them, that the sensation of the Creator within us is called faith. So what do we gain by imagining as if we've been awarded with the Creator's faith, the feeling of the Creator, as he writes? One must believe above reason and imagine. Imagine. It doesn't exist, but as if he's already been awarded with faith in the Creator that is felt in his organs, and he feels that the Creator leads the world, meaning the person is a small world. It's all entirely in good and benevolent. So what do I gain by making an effort to determine this, even though the Creator on the other end is breaking this lens for me, this outlook? Is good and benevolent, and I feel in all my organs, and I feel that what happens to me in my mind and heart, in my feelings. What do I gain by making an effort to feel that I'm at the end of the correction already? The Creator is clothed within me and filling me entirely. Please.
This effort awakens the light that reforms, it expands the vessels, it opens two extremes in perception. On the one hand, there's what I feel, and then there's what I yearn to feel.
Yes, and exactly that gap. When we play the game, and externally we work all nice and well in respect to the 10, we provide an example and see and show the importance of the goal and everything, but still inside the gap becomes more prominent, and there's this inertia which pulls you forward slowly. It's something which, well, works based on experience. When you act towards the friends, at some point it happens to you.
It follows that we actually always have to live in the middle, in between, in this sense of the gap and this non-stop work of painting pictures of bestowal, describing the greatness of the Creator and the friends at the top, the maximum possible. And that builds a gap, it builds a place for prayer, connection with the Creator.
Yes, and these two layers aren't just internal and external. It's what I see in my senses, which is real, and some imagination. And it's not just fantasy. It's an imagination where we try to build in the most precise form to establish the rules which the Kabbalists wrote to us, and to try to superimpose that on this reality. And it's like that's the prayer. There's this cat that's trying to jump and become a human being, so that's the power of prayer that does it.
Yeah. Like a cat. All right, that threw me off.
It's not a power, it's an algorithm.
Rav, so let's discuss some more. What will we feel if we imagine that the Creator dresses in the person and is felt as filling us and felt in our organs? What do we feel then?
There's this rule, this one quality, one reality, one soul was created, and other than that, everything else is a lie. And we are coming closer to discover the truth. The system compels us to come closer to this truth, and we don't have a choice in the matter. What we'll feel is that we're connected. We've always been connected. That's what we'll feel when this feeling is clothed in us. We're more connected than we can even imagine today.
We will begin to feel a true reality. We'll begin to feel a place where we have room to work, and we can feel like that we are lost because we don't know where to put the focus.
We'll feel that with every desire that awakens, which is opposite to that, to the Creator's image, we can really invite what we thought before, that we need to fulfill these desires, satisfy them directly, to calm them down somehow. And now we discover that it's not, those aren't the rules of the game in that reality. The only way to satisfy these desires, and the reason for which they were given to us in the first place, is for us to magnify that, empower that vessel of connection, and ask for the Creator to be revealed within it.
Rav, so if we now decide that we want to resemble that state of the final correction, where the Creator is dressed in us, and we are filled with Him, as if He's felt in our organs, that we have received it, that the Creator governs everyone, and we fulfill His actions, first by coercion, and then by will, and by agreement, and we become workers of the Creator with love. And then what happens to us? How will we behave from that moment on?
Our outlook on reality will change. We will be as 110, and through the 10 actually, and all of our advancement, our progression through this reality will be measured according to the state of the 10. What's happening in this reality affecting? How does it affect our 10? Everything is in relation to the 10. These individual organs help us just feel reality through the 10.
Yeah, that's really living in a personal calculation, not a collective calculation. Like with the 10, that we work with it like not with the same calculation of the will to receive. The goal is to bring everyone into it, all the rest of the 10s and all the rest of the created beings. So then this calculation just expands and expands.
Yes, exactly. That's implementing love, the other as yourself. In the organs, you need to feel how all of reality is full of this life, and this implementation is, well, it's to bring all of the true vessels, the others, to this as well, for this to occur in them. And then everything that a person needs to do internally and externally is just that, for this to feel all of the vessels of reality.
We will also have greater attention to this kli, to this reality in the group, because that's where it appears. That's our nose will be deep into it.
Rav didn't ask how I'll feel, but how we'll feel, meaning this reality where I'm thinking, I'm feeling, I understand, I walk here or there. It doesn't exist in this state. There's something new, some new entity called we, or us, where everything happens, everything is discovered. There's this new responsibility towards the system where this us is in.
It will be especially a state where we will want to further and further take upon ourselves the work of raising all the desires, and we want to do all this work for others, that the gravity of the will to receive and the bitterness that's felt in it is actually becoming our place to work. A person who is in bestowal sees these things as an opportunity not to delete, but to cover. In practice, we discover a whole new realm of joy.
And the pleasure becomes pleasure from bestowing contentment upon the Creator. Instead of all these personal, private calculations, we have the collective calculation. Once that personal, private calculation is not receiving our full attention, then we can be freed of it. And
Rav, so our work is that we have to try to resemble the Creator as if He is dressed in us and as if He guides us, but we actually try to be similar to Him, and then from describing such a state to ourselves, we begin to pray to Him so that He turns the desired state to the existing state. Like Rabash brings here, we discover that you have chosen us to do these steps towards you. You have chosen us. You loved us, meaning you did it out of love, wanting us to resemble you. And you wanted us, meaning we now need to acquire the state of being like you and truly discovering, not in our imagination, not make-believe, that you are actually good that does good, and that you truly dress into us. And so how do we perform through our efforts the right prayer to the Creator, that we create such a relationship between us as though the Creator is already dressed in us, and as a result we somehow realize it needs to happen using our imagination as much as we can envision it, and then there's a gap between the desired state and the existing state, and we raise that as man, wanting to be in this reality, wanting to be with this in reality and not in our imagination. So let's better detail this work that we have, where we use our efforts when we still don't have faith, we only have imagination. we imagine the Creator dressing into us, and we behave as though He is completely filling our organs and filling our relations to each other, that is, our mind and heart. And because it's not that way, we only envision it, then our will to receive helps us understand the difference between the existing state we have and the desired state. With our effort, then the gap between the desired state and the existing state, we raise it to the Creator to really correct us according to the effort that we make, and then the Creator actually raises us and does the action. So let's talk about it. Let's try to correctly portray it, and then also to realize it. Yes.
It's all situated on, well, it's all founded on again and again acting out the importance of the goal towards the friends. It's amazing how simple this whole endeavor is, because people do it in any case. They lie, they paint themselves up, but for us it's not this American smile of have a nice day. It's have a nice boy. It's the greatness of the goal constantly. We connect everything to the goal, and then in that the light begins to work and the gap begins to form, and you see that the friends are there and you're not, and you just want to add to them, and each one has a place where he can overcome, and so on and so forth.
To add to Amit and focus, what is the goal? That basically the whole imaginary focus of reality, that it's all inside of me and for me and in me, now it moves outwards to the connection between us, that it's all for the friends and in the friends. And what are the friends? These are the organs. Essentially, it's the same one, but this change of direction and inclination in every form, in thought and speech and action, to impose the reality of the Creator over the greatness of myself. That there is this depiction of the 10 whose center is everything, and that's the purpose of life. That builds the prayer.
Yes, that's how we mark our lowest points, where we're in the will to receive, and it governs us. And on the other hand, this huge and pure place of connection between us, the importance of the goal which we have between us, the respect and annulment of the self, we give this as an opportunity to each one.
So here again, let's clarify the situation. In many states, we behave as though we're already connected between us, and we're looking for the Creator to also dwell in us. From that state of painting a picture to ourselves that we're already in a connection between us, and therefore we have faith in the Creator, meaning that He dresses into us. We feel as though He is residing in us and activating us according to our desire to be activated by Him. And then we feel that He is in us and we're in adhesion with Him. How do we make this scrutiny between the desired state and the existing state, which is only according to our efforts and not in actual fact, and there's a difference between these states. Where we imagine it to be so, we make efforts for it to be so. We want it in our desire, and in truth we see that not yet, that the Creator doesn't dress into us. We don't have that faith, that sense of the Creator in our organs, because we don't yet have these organs between us that are connected where He can reside. In the gap between these states, how do we raise the man to the Creator to correct us and dress into us? Please.
Yes, it seems. I just remembered a piece by, I think, Bash or Baal Sulam, who writes, and then you will have prayer, meaning that prayer is a state you reach by discovering the infinite gap between the Creator's quality and the created being's quality. The discovery of that gap, that divide, begets prayer. And that prayer needs to be together. It's not an individual who's despondent. He's not unsuccessful by himself and so on. Our efforts to achieve a state where we're one, along with our inability to actually apply it, although we know that this is the truth and the path, and we don't have any doubt in that, that needs to beget that prayer, which is the power that can hold us together through to the state where it's actually realized and revealed in us.
As just said, it's not a prayer where I open a book and begins to start run through a scenario of a prayer, or rather from the scrutiny of what I want to achieve, it grows more and more, and I don't know, my prayer is not yet the scrutiny, it's not yet there, but layer by layer it opens up more and more, and it grows until I come to the true gap. But every time I reach the gap, I am thankful for it. I know myself better. I know how I am as an ordinary person, how I want to resemble the force that operates us.
And our signs in regard to that exertion, our indication is the lack of desire. That is an actual invitation to make that effort, to depict the connection in the 10, because even though it seems to us that we're standing in place, it's completely incorrect. Those are specifically the places where we can advance without a push from the suffering which pushes us from behind and the inspiration that pulls us from afar.
And actually from the inspiration that draws us forward, we can relate to reality correctly, we can take a decision that comes from the 10, from a common feeling, and then after we do it, we feel that in practice I'm doing it for the sake of myself, that on the one hand the game that you're playing gives you the power to run to it, and yet the truth cannot be covered. You see how you're doing it for yourself in practice, and here there's a great gap because you're as if inside this prison together with wanting to finally make a clean action.
That's the special thing. We're acting out these forms of bestowal both internally and externally, because that's what pulls one out of himself.
Rav, how do we reach a prayer which includes the existing state that we see in our own vessels, what are our vessels, and the desired state, where we imagine to ourselves as if we're already connected and the Creator dwells within us. How do we make that calculation exactly between these two states, the desired state and the existing state? And then from discovering the gap between these states, we have a desire that we relate to the Creator, that we present to the Creator. How do we find the lack between where we are and where we need to be, and we use that gap as man to turn to the Creator?
We discussed the acting, the building of this imaginary place in the most accurate possible way, and as Itai said, opposite that, this resistance is discovered, the snake, and then you can kiss the snake, the serpent, because he or it indicates the extent to which I lack the greatness of the Creator, and how imperfect my work is, and how much I need this external force to still govern me, and to what extent, so that I can still exist within the 10, within the friends.
At the snake, it's something very high. What am I? I'm a beast. I don't understand anything. The worst is I think I understand. The animal lies to itself and thinks it knows where it is. I think we have to keep that point of criticism. Where am I in relation to spirituality? I don't belong to it. I don't belong to it in any cell in my body. Once you discover that, there's a true gap. It's not the word gap. There is an actual, tangible gap.
Yes, and it's infinite. It compels the created being to determine that the Creator is not only great, but also inconceivable to him in his own vessels. He can't grasp it. If he can grasp or imagine what the Creator is, that he can ask from him this or that, it's a degree of connection, or to discuss the greatness of the Creator from a place where our vessels can't even grasp what we're talking about, other than talking about how great and concealed this state is, and concealed on purpose in order to grow us.
I can't make this depiction between the desired state and the existing state. Back to the point that there has to be a work area for that, where I can do that, and that work area also always evades my feeling and my desire. So what I can do is to provide the foundations and and just try to work and do it again and again.
To try to observe this gap in as many discernments as possible, to try to feel it palpably. The desirable state is the one where I'm connected to the 10, where I feel we feel as one desire. I'm completely integrated there. That's the new thing. And
Rav, let's describe to ourselves a rather ordinary state. I'm in a certain state and I want something else. So then I have a deficiency for that other state. And that deficiency that appears in me rises to the Creator. And the Creator, in some way, arranges it for me, more or less, or shows me how to attain what's desired not at once, maybe, or maybe the state that I desire is wrong, so He changes me and teaches me. But we always live in these states. Only here we talk about building the man in a specific way. It's not just that I want an apple and I don't have it, and my desire brings me closer to it. Rather, we have built the existing state through our efforts, the desired state, that we want to be connected between us in order to discover the Creator and bring Him contentment. And then we see that this state, we also inspect it and see that it's not sufficiently accurate and good. And then we see a gap between the desired state and the existing state, and we raise it, and that man is what leads us to new vessels that we didn't have before, new deficiencies that we establish, and in them we build the degree of the human within us that we didn't have before. From the Creator, what we receive is the degrees of still, vegetative, and animate. The human degree doesn't exist in matter, only in thought and desire. And that's what we're now doing. Meaning this level is the inclination to get closer to the Creator. And that's what we want to build. And we have to envision building this state just like in our world, where I am in a certain state, but I want to be in a different state, which is the direction of anything alive. Questions?
Anyone who has a question, please get a microphone and raise your hand when you have one. Laz, please, first question. Regarding the place between the desirable and the existing, there's a problem with identifying the existing, because it's my own perception of reality which is completely distorted and it keeps changing. So how do we determine the true gap between the desirable and the existing? The existing is imaginary.
It's not imaginary. What you find in your desires, what you find in your thought, that's called the existing state. The fact that it's false, it doesn't matter. Towards you, it's truth. This is what I got in my thought and my desire, in my mind, in my heart. That's it. That's what I have for now. More questions?
What did it mean exactly to describe the Creator? What do you imagine?
I imagine that He dwells between us and connects us, and we are all in agreement with Him and under His control, but in a mutual way, that we agree that He resides in our organs being the desires, our emotions that are common. And He dresses into that, and He acts according to how we let Him work. We want Him to work. So that's the state that we check whether we have that or not. Are we connected between us? Can the Creator fulfill the space, the air, the distance between us in His presence? Meaning in a connection where we are like one. If not, then how do we describe the state that we should have? We raise a prayer to the extent that we yearn for a state where we are in the force of the Creator, the quality of the Creator, meaning connection and love. Do we want it? Perhaps yes. Can we do it? No. The gap between the desired and the existing state is man.
But what exactly fills that air between us that we need to imagine? What does it mean to imagine?
With love. What do you mean? If we have to come together as Adam HaRishon before the sin, so what's the connection between all the organs, all the cells, all the parts of the body? Love. Otherwise, they wouldn't work together. Meaning mutual guarantee, mutual responsibility, mutual understanding. It's all mutual.
This imagination needs to comprise both things at the same time, meaning to feel the existing state and to live in it, and in parallel to manage to imagine the desirable state, to live in these both ends at once?
Yes, we have to make efforts to be in a state as though the Creator is already between us and fulfills us, and that's how we behave. And then we see whether our behavior is exactly as if the Creator is dressed in us. And we see that the fact that we imagine that the Creator dwells between us and we behave that way, it's not the same as if it truly dwelled within us, because we don't have the same reciprocity and love and mutuality, and we don't yet have that state of complete mutual guarantee between us. If the Creator filled us and determined that state by His actual force, would be different, and that's where we see the gap. What do we discover eventually? We discover a need for the Creator to dwell within us. And so we turn to the Creator to, as if, dress into us, control us. But we want Him to control us. We want that force of love and connection and reciprocity. And that's what's called raising man.
The need is our prayer, meaning there's no action in the end where we
don't have other actions than prayer. Everything is done by the Creator, only with our deficiency that comes first. So this is what's called, my sons have defeated me. That we ask, or even demand Him to make an action depending on how we do it, or that it happens without an invitation from below. If we do it within demand from below, we raise the force of Binah, the force of Chasadim that rises from the Masach and Tzimtzum upwards, and returning light. And if we don't do it, then it comes differently, by way of control. More questions?
Shalom Rav.
Hello, Rav. My question is, how does this realistic calculation between desirable and existing go together with the work of faith above reason?
Because you work here in faith above reason, where it's as if in the sense of you work as if the Creator is in you and He controls you. This is how you describe it. and you describe it with a force of faith, the force of Binah. And so you want to establish this state by faith, by force of bestowal, that is above the reason that you now feel in your organs. This means by faith above reason. There's 2 degrees, reason and faith above reason, and you wish to determine faith above reason. You want that to materialize and become your next level of reason, and then you rise to a higher level of faith.
And let's say you can do this calculation. How can this gap go in the right direction of raising man and not frustration and how great it is? And I'm going here for years. How do you take it to a positive place of a demand and a deficiency and not take it to a negative?
If you work as if to feel that the Creator is in you and is filling you, and you relate to one another from that force that the Creator fills you with, then this work is giving you the sensation of wholeness, that you have someone to work with, someone to ask from, and what to hope for. What are we doing next?
Are there more questions, or should we go to part 21, to excerpt 21? No more questions? We can read the next part or go to tests.
Okay, another. Or maybe we should try to realize it during the day, strengthen what we discussed, and not to blur it out, because it's a very important thing. You understand that here we have a practical advice from Rabash that we have to actualize.
There's another question, Rav.
Yes.
How can the imagination of the next state should be mutual and not individual? It's felt that it's something we're building together.
That's a beautiful question. It's not a simple one. I think that when we begin to engage in that, we'll understand that it's not that important, because all the deficiencies that we're already raising in all these searches, it all comes to the Creator, and it accumulates, and it reaches a calculation in the Creator, and out of this changing calculation, He influences us, and He establishes us behind the scenes, and He sends us directly all those changes. We'll begin to see that we are in that same system. There's nothing other than that. The whole world is in it. And in this we'll be working with the Creator out of this engagement in it, from working with it. What is good about what we discussed is that we have something very concrete that we can carry out. More questions? Ask if you.
Rav, does all advancement forward must come through this mechanism of my sons have beaten me?
It turns out that if the Creator created us and then shattered the vessel and then arranged us in a certain state, and He's managing us, He's also giving us an opportunity to change the state, or to ask of Him, and He will change it. So it turns out that we're working against the Creator. That's the meaning of my sons have defeated me in this matter. That I built the world, I built them in a certain way, and they are demanding me to change it. Although I'm happy about it because we are growing up, we want His qualities to rule over us. There's another subtle thing. What does it mean that we are asking Him to rule us? He will rule only over those vessels that we understand and want to have in them the rule of the Creator, the control of the Creator. Meaning the Creator that is clothing in us. It doesn't clothe in us like in the still vegetative and animate degrees and simply dominates it. Rather, He does it according to our agreement, with the restriction, the screen, and the reflected light. That I allow the host to fill me on the condition that my vessel is ready to fill Him.
The work to depict that future state, that's the work against the Creator? That we constantly have to depict this future state against what we feel?
Of course, what do you mean against? It's all towards Him. But from the outset, I understand that I have to arrange the connection between us. And in the connection between us, I to my beloved and my beloved to me. We have to work in this way. In such states, in a mutual way.
Should the friends help each other depict that future state?
Of course we're talking about it, we are discussing it, we constantly see how much we advance in the understanding of the desired state and the existing state. What else is required, what's not, we scrutinize it. That's we constantly do it between the desired state and the existing state in the society, in the connection between us. We have to constantly discuss it as if non-stop. And then we have a continuous raising of man. That's the meaning of the verse, I wish he will pray all day.
When we feel the gap between the desired and the future state in the group, so what requests can you raise to the Creator? What request does He answer on?
I don't know. I don't know. He has 1,001 ways to answer our requests, our personal requests, group requests. This is what we call the prayer of the individual, prayer of the public. It's not as it's written that the prayer of the individual doesn't reach the Creator. Here we're talking about a prayer of the individual where a person reveals it, he scrutinizes the situation in the connection with the group, and he wants that connection to be better, stronger. And then he is raising man, and this man is received because he's praying for the others instead of for himself. But in what way will the Creator answer, will respond? We have no way to know. We'll see it. He has ways to do it behind the scenes. He has ways of doing it in such a way that we would not even know whether he's doing something or not, how, why. Rather, we need to understand that each next state depends on our current man. But do we identify the coming state? That's a question.
If a person asks, raises man, and feels that there's no response, should he change the way he requests or to keep going?
He should check himself. Here we have to be as the experienced. My answers would not be helpful here. You won't use them. You won't reveal them. None is wise as the experienced.
Question from the internet, please. Edward from Minsk is asking, how can we be sure that our desired state is not something we want in the world to receive, but it's above it?
We imagine those states. Also the state that we seemingly built now, as if the Creator is dwelling in us, as if we understand it's a make-believe. And out of that, we want it to come to be in this way or such, or another way, a better way. We have to constantly discuss it specifically. And out of this attitude, we'll begin to receive changes, and these changes will bring us in excitement. And inside this excitement, we'll begin to feel these states in depth. All those inner discernments. And in this way we advance.
Alexei from Moscow is also asking about that gap. The gap between what we have and the desire, that's the deficiency already? What's the addition in turning to the Creator?
Yeah, the gap between the desired and the existing is the deficiency. I'll tell you even more. The Creator works in such a way that for Him there is no past, present, future. He knows which deficiency we're going to reach and what exactly will we ask. We simply need to work in it and raise our demands like little kids, like babies. Of course, later on we'll be rewarded with various changes and our man will change, but the concern has to be about the man, because that is the last action from us towards the upper one, after which we'll have a reaction from him. We have to constantly be raising man. I wish he would pray all day. We need also individual work of each one and also group work, but the intention is for each one to pray for the collective, the Creator.
So Denise Sandler from Moscow is asking, how can I understand if my prayer is correct? How can I understand that my prayer was accepted?
In truth, it's not that important to me. The true work is to turn to the Creator. And specifically in raising the man, we give him contentment. Like a baby, like a little child that is asking the parents, he's positioning them in such a way that he depends on them and he demands a certain attitude from them, then there's a grace in that. And of course, it demands something. In our spiritual work, in faith above reason, we demand only one thing: to have a room for prayer, to turn to the Creator, because by that we give Him contentment. If we have some contact with the Creator in the group, we wish for the Creator to be revealed in us, only so we would receive our revelation as strength for work to overcome it even more, meaning to remain in concealment, meaning there are additional additions we will learn about how it happens in spirituality. It's not that we demand of Him to be revealed, we demand of Him to reveal the correct form of connection between us. Please.
Rav, so in what are we filling the Creator in our request?
And what are we precisely?
What do we fill the Creator with our request?
With the request itself.
He's fulfilled by us asking?
Yes. That's how our sages say. Because by raising our request, we are raising him as a dominator, as a manager, as the one who works as good and benevolent, and so on and so forth. So we have nothing more to do other than to ask.
Joseph
from California is asking, when we feel the Creator has brought us closer to that desired state, how do we not lose the momentum and right away strengthen that desired state?
It's all the same work. I have nothing to add to this question. We must constantly try. Again, I have to believe above reason and depict to himself as if he was already rewarded with faith in the Creator and feeling in his organs. Which organs does he merit? The new organs that he has corrected, not the old organs. He corrects them and then the Creator clothes in them. The lack of connection, we now renew them, we rebuild them, and the Creator is clothed in them. That's what we depict, as much as the 10 becomes one, and the Creator, the one Creator, clothes in the 10. One receives one. And it feels that the Creator leads the world as the good who does good. We feel it. That's how we need to imagine it. Let's behave as if this is so. But we have to do it. We have to forcefully arrange our state as if it's already done. That's what we have to do. And from that, later, when we arrange it well, as if it's felt in all of our organs, then we check what did we attain in terms of the importance of the goal, in terms of the closeness of the Creator, in terms of the clothing of the Creator in us. And then we gradually discover that we don't have it yet in practice, but we are raising gratitude that the Creator gave us an opportunity to do it in this way. And inside this gratitude, we are asking Him to establish that state for us. And the end of this action should be that after this request, that yes, I'll be able to do it correctly with His help, I raise His praise. And according to the sensation of spirituality that I attained, accordingly I arrange the praise of the Creator. I hope we take this lesson in practice and build it well. Maybe it's best to hear again everything we've just been through in this hour and 15. And let's go to the next stage, if there are no questions.
Good morning, Rav. Dear friends, World Kli. I'm happy on vacation, Rav. You seem very calm and have more forces. And my question is, our work in the 10 gives us the ability to raise man, to reach the deficiency, revealing that gap you were speaking about. And our main work is the prayer. And for some reason, in my feeling, the prayer doesn't change for a long time, except for little intricacies that were added. But I'm like more friends in the Kli that I'm asking for. But the fact that the prayer didn't change for a long time, does that mean we're frozen in our spiritual advancement? A lack of advancement? Or that's what the Creator wants to show us?
I don't understand why the prayer has to change. Ultimately, the prayer is one thing. We raise Malchut to Bina. We ask for the strength, for the power of Bina for Malchut. We ask for the force of connection in the group. We ask for the strength to examine, to scrutinize the state in the group, and so on and so forth. But it's all towards asking for the Creator to dwell among us. We check how much our states, our desires, our actions are according to what we understand as Him or not. And we ask. Our work is always the same work. Why should the prayer change? It needs to receive an upgrade, perhaps, become more and more precise, more detailed. But that's how it should be. So I don't know why you should be frustrated. What do I want? Today I want one. Tomorrow I want the second thing, and in a moment the third thing, and so on. That's not considered the correct work. The correct work is when we constantly establish the goal before us and we demand it more and more. The same goal but with greater precision, the same vessel but with greater precision, and that's it.
Can I ask another question, Rav? About imagining that future state with all the books and the guidance and the direction you're giving us. This imagination is almost tangible except for actual attainment. Doesn't it diminish our work in this imagination towards our existing state? Doesn't it harm our work?
You try to check behind the efforts that you try to make to establish that the Creator is, to determine the Creator is among us, and to imagine that He is there. After making all these efforts, sufficient efforts to connect between you as if the Creator is present, and to check what does it mean that He is present, you'll see how much, to what extent you have the true deficiency. It's like a person that suffers but doesn't know the cause of that suffering, and I bring him a little bit of a taste of what he truly suffers from. Let's say I give him 10 cc of water, and he really wants to drink, so we understand from these 10 cc of water how much he truly needs this water, and that's why he has a true deficiency. Not that we're heading towards a smaller deficiency, but on the contrary, as much as we want to establish by ourselves, seriously, by our own strength, the correct connected state, by that we'll discover our true state, our disconnected, our shattered state, our greater state.
Thank you, love.
That's it.
Alex from Volga is asking, is the evil being revealed between us is the deficiency and the answer of the Creator to our requests?
Again?
Is the evil being revealed between us is our deficiency and the Creator's answers to our request?
Of course, that's how it is on the way, but it's not the end. You simply have to try it, but to try in reality how it works. Ultimately, this excerpt is describing the entire process of building the relationship with the Creator.
Can we say that the difference between Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma and his students is that he felt the state of the connection between the students and the students didn't? Should each friend in the 10 be like Rabbi Yossi?
This is already work between the friends in order to determine what's missing, to what extent the Creator is absent between them. So each one has to be greater than the friends, lower than the friends, and so on, so forth. This is the work between the friends in order to determine the desired state and the present state and discuss it between them. That's along the way, more individually. I think we shouldn't get confused about it, but rather make a practical effort out of it. Let us do it now as an action to strengthen what we just studied. All the 10s, each and every 10 tries to locate the state where the Creator clothes between them and practice how much it changes the relationship between them, how much they begin to feel themselves connected in their internality together as one man in one heart. Truly do it as a great effort, and after this great effort, to go back to the state where it's only effort on their part and the force of their imagination, as he writes. We have to depict to ourselves, imagine it as if we were already merited with the faith in the Creator and force of bestowal from above, and this force of bestowal dwells among us. After you make such an effort, then we go back to the real state. Is it truly so or not? There's the imaginary state and the real state, true state. And in between these two states, we'll begin to ask from the Creator to take care of us, to turn the desired state into a present state, an actual state. Let's go. Workshop.
I am very happy that we're sitting here together right now, and we have the privilege to engage in these things, and to want to feel as one, and understand that only by these efforts that we are above everything rational will make efforts to feel as one, in the tendency of the heart, a mutual concern towards one another, in order to enter this wonderful process.
These lessons are so exciting, so special. How from one moment to the next this work opens up between the 2 and 3 lines. The important thing is, as much as possible, to imagine every moment that we have between us. That's certain. How much this upper force, good and benevolent, between us is bringing us closer. Truly, through the Rav, through the books, simply dwells between us in love. glues us together above reason. We don't know it, but we want this desired state to become present state.
I was saying to Amit what vessels we need to implement what Rav spelled out here today to process it. But the part of the criticism comes easy, and the devotion is the problem, that I'm putting my reason here during the acting instead of with devotion giving the friends greatness of the Creator, that we're in Gmar Tikkun and we're acting, that we're connected, and between us there's eternality and perfection. I put something of my criticism in there, and then it ruins the whole process. This is what we have to act all the way before the friends in order to reach that criticism.
And whenever we talk about acting, it's not acting externally, it's externally, but it's also internally. I'm impressed by my game, trying to awaken me. I have no clue what's the action externally, and how it influences, but I can measure it.
These attempts, this technique that Kabbalists give us how to reach from degree of the beast to Adam goes through these two stations. If we remember how none else besides him starts, that even the things that come to contradict the Creator, that's his desire too. It's part of the system. It's not that I'm ruining something and I wasn't right or I did something wrong. It's the Creator through his method to awaken the point in the heart and a yearning to bestow and an awareness of his state. It's all built as part of the system, and we need to hold each other to not run away or off the train that we were already put on, and to rejoice by having this state and that we can experience together the way the Creator is revealed in the connection between us.
There's also gratitude. What we reveal from this process is the place where we are equal. Each one has his own form, but there's the effort that each one is putting in. And this effort I can always add to the friends, and this is also very practical. You can to always awaken the hearts of the friends, to awaken that we're searching, we're seeking to scrutinize between us. What is this goal? What is the force of bestowal? What is the force of the Creator to depict it between us? That is the game. That is a true game.
And to remember that it's always in our perception of reality that the matter that Creator is letting us work with, there are these emotional states we're going through specifically. That's the fuel that we can invert if we really devote ourselves to the desired state, which is a state that we are above our will to receive, not to expect that in reason is what will be filled and we'll have some good feeling and everything will be okay, but that okay will be from uplifting and from turning to the Creator. That's what was given to us.
And continue to what Henry said, the work in the heart, that we won't forget and won't get attached to external things, because the work is in the heart, and the perception of reality of each and every one of us as one. Because on the one hand we're a collection of individuals, but we want to reach a common sensation, but we shouldn't escape the battle itself, that we shouldn't get confused about one common and all this, and then the truth of how you feel reality, how you grasp reality, you sort of swipe it to the side.
And to give ourselves this inner emotional state that this resolution will be more and more delicate. I have a friend that said before every workshop,
okay, friends, let's go to Tess for the few moments we have left. Third lesson.
So going to the next part of the lesson from Tess.
Hello, we are studying from Test, Talmud Esel Sfirot, Volume 1, Part 4. We're on page 225 in Hebrew, Chapter 3, Item 3, the words of the Ari. You can send your questions to kab.tv. Selected questions will be asked here. So again, test chapter, page 225, we'll start with item 3 in the words of the Ari. The first Itpashtut of Akudim illuminated to the receivers from above downward, and the levels that extended with their departure illuminated from below upward. It is known that when the Sfirot of Akudim came, their panim, their face, were turned downward, because the purpose of their coming was to shine downward. As a result, their panim, their face, were through the receivers. However, when they returned upward, they turned their panim upward to the emanator, and their achoraim, posterior, downward. Again, item 3, the words of the Ari. The first Itpashtut of Akudim, it is known that when the Sfirot of Akudim came, their panim, their face, were turned downward, because the purpose of their coming was to shine downward. As a result, their panim, their face, were through the receivers. However, when they returned upward, they turned their panim, face, upward to the emanator, and their achoraim, posterior, downward. Opnimi, item 5. Item 5, Opnimi. We studied item 4. So item 5. It has already been explained that Bchinat bestowal is called panim, face. It is therefore understood that Bchinat histalkut, departure from bestowal, is called achoraim, posterior. It has also been explained that downward means the more coarse Bchina. Their achoraim downward mean that the lights depart and retire themselves from the aviut, the coarseness, so that a greater departure, a greater histalkut, will be in the Bchina with a greater coarseness, aviut. Again, item 5. It has already been explained that Bchinat bestowal is called panim, face. It is therefore understood that Bchinat histalkut, the departure from bestowal, is called achoraim, posterior. It has also been explained that downward means the coarser Bchinat, the coarser discernment there. Their achoraim, downward, their posterior, downward means that the lights depart and retire themselves from the coarseness, so that a greater departure will be in the Bchina with a greater coarseness. Rav, please. We continue to item 4 in the words of the Ari. Keter illuminated to the Netzalim, to the emanated beings, through its posterior as it rose to the emanator. When Keter rose to the Matzil, emanator, there is no doubt that the light of the emanator never stops for even a moment from the receiving emanated beings. The only difference is that at that time, when Keter rose upward, that light that descends from the emanator comes down to the Sphira through its achoraim, posterior. After all, he turned his panim, his face upward, and his achoraim, posterior, to the emanated beings, and he is dinim. The other Sphirot operate similarly as they return and ascend. Again, item 4. When Keter rose to the Matzil, to the emanator, there is no doubt that the light of the emanator never stops for even a moment from the receiving emanated beings. The only difference is that at that time, when Keter rose upward, that light that descends from the Matzil, from the emanator, comes down to the Sphira through its achoraim, posterior. After all, he turned his panim, his face upward, and his achoraim, posterior, to the emanated beings, and he is dinim. The other Sphirot operate similarly as they return and ascend. Item 6, Opnimi, relates to the words of the Ari. The light of the emanator never stops. Item 6. This is a great rule in the wisdom. The upper light flows ever abundantly, incessantly, and unchanging, as it says, I, the Lord, change not. As we have written at length before. Also, during the histalkut, the departure, meaning during the purification of the screen, the departure was instantaneous and at once. However, because the histalkut necessarily ascends in the order of degrees in the 4 phases of coarseness, it is necessarily purified to Bchina Gimel first, Bchina Bet next, then Bchina Aleph, and then Bchinat Keter. It is therefore considered that the light of the emanator that does not stop expanding to it and mating with it during its ascent and arriving from Bchina to Bchina, and generates a new level of 10 sfirot according to the measure of its coarseness. When it comes to Bchina Gimel, it generates the level of Chokhmah. When it comes to Bchina Bet, it generates the level of Bina, etc. Finally, it becomes completely purified and the upper light stops due to the absence of reflected light, or choser, to clothe it. For there is no manifestation of the light without a kli, a vessel, and clothing. Again, Opnimi, item 6. This is a great rule in the wisdom, that the upper light flows ever abundantly, incessantly, and unchanging. As it says, I the Lord, change not. As we have written in length before. Also, during the histalkut, the departure, meaning during the purification of the screen, the histalkut, the departure, was instantaneous and at once. However, because the purification necessarily ascends in the order of degrees in the 4 phases of coarseness, it is necessarily purified to Bchina Gimel first, Bchina Bet next, then Bchina Aleph, and then Bchina Keter. It is therefore considered that the light of the emanator that does not stop expands to it and mates with it during its ascent and arrival from Bchina to Bchina, and generating a new level of 10 sfirot according to the measure of its coarseness. When it comes to Bchina Gimel, it generates the level of Chokhmah. When it comes to Bchina Bet, it generates the level of Bina, etc. Finally, it becomes completely purified and the upper light stops due to the absence of reflected light to clothe it, for there is no manifestation of light without a vessel and a clothing.
If you have any questions, please, but I think it's pretty clear what's written here. Let's keep going.
Item 5 in the words of the Ari, the light of the panim, of the face, are rachamim, and achoraim, the posterior, are dinim, called reflected light, or choser. It turns out that even during the ascent of the lights upward, they extend the descending light downward from the emanator to the lower ones, through them and in the middle of them. However, it then extends through their achoraim, posterior, and it is known that panim, face, is rachamim, and achoraim are dinim. The descending light is now called reflected light, since it descends when the upper lights return to rise to their shorish, to their root and their emanator, and that is why this light is din. Again, it turns out that even during the ascent of the lights upward, they extend the descending light downward from the emanator to the lower ones, through them and in the middle of them. However, it then extends through their achoraim, posterior, and it is known that panim, face, is rachamim, and achoraim, posterior, are dinim, and the descending light is now called reflected light, since it descends when the upper lights return to rise to their root and emanator, and that is why this light is din. Item 7 in Opnimi. Can we ask questions, Rob?
יש שאלה, אפשר שאלה?
I have a question. Can we ask?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah.
If the light departs during when it fills the vessels, why is it called dinim?
Because during the departure, it's called dinim, the judgment. Rachamim, mercy, is when it expands in there, when the vessel accepts it. When the vessel can't stand it anymore and it departs, the vessel rejects it. It's still dinim, judgments. It's like the host and the guest. That even though the guest wants to be equivalent to the host, he still rejects the light. That's why it's judgment. The vessels are revealed that haven't been corrected yet, that there's still deficiencies and problems. That's why the lights have to depart. And to reveal more deficiencies in the vessels in order to be corrected, it's all called judgments. Also, the reflected light itself is called judgment. It's reflected. You can say, but he sends the created being back to the creator, right? But according to the action, according to its nature, from the created being working from his limited will to receive, that's called judgment.
But beyond calling it din, after all, it's new fulfillments and new discernments.
It's all correct, but right now we call that state itself that the vessel is in. We call it reflected light and din. That's how it is because it's revealed through a deficiency of the created being. That's why it's called judgments. I think we need to understand that there is no evil in it, that it's a judgment and deficiencies are revealed. As Bala Sulam writes, I'm happy by the evil that's being revealed. It's the wicked being revealed, but he's happy. There is no evil if we engage in corrections, so it's all for the best. More.
Itai, next question. Maybe it's in the same direction. What does it mean that the light descends through the achoran, the posterior of the upper one?
How should I say this simply? The light descending through the posterior of the upper one, he shows the upper one as much as the lower one as much as he's lacking corrections. That the lower one receives the posterior of the upper one from this, meaning great judgments, but he can invert them into his own vessels and then be awarded with rachamim, with mercy.
So it's not the posterior of the upper one, it's the creation of the posterior in the lower one?
It's the posterior of the upper one that he's showing him as much as he's still under limitations. Let's read.
We continue, item 7, Opnimi, relates to the words of the Ari, the light that descends from the emanator to the lower ones. Item 7. It means that the light descends from the emanator to the lower bchinot that were generated in each and every sphera as the screen ascends and purifies. Every place where the screen of Malchut ascends becomes the lowest bchina. It means that it stops the light of the emanator and interrupts its expansion from her downward. Thus, the light of the emanator ends at that place, and the place where the screen comes to is called the lowest bchina. The Rav makes this precision to the lower one, through them, and by them. It tells us that the light extends from the emanator only by the lowest bchinot and by means of the lowest bchinot. meaning through the screen that raises reflected light as it ascends and gradually purifies. When it comes to Bchina Gimel, which is Zeir Anpin, Bchina Gimel becomes the lowest Bchina that strikes the upper light and detains it from expanding it downwards. Thus, the entire amount of the light suitable for accepting in it had been rejected and pushed back as reflected light, and it extends 10 sfirot on the level of Chokhmah, and so on likewise. Thus, you find that the extension of the light always comes from the lowest Bchina that's been renewed, where the light that had not been received becomes reflected light.
Questions?
Hello, Rav. I wanted to ask about it. When there is a zivug, coupling in the peh of Rosh, the lights enter the Partzuf, and then we also have this zivug in Tabu. What is that zivug in Tabu? That before there's reflected light, there's a zivug. What is that?
Let's say it's a collision. The zivug in the Rosh is a zivug for connection. The zivug in the Guf is for disconnection. That in the zivug of the Rosh, it's for receiving the lights. The zivug in the Tabur, it's not a zivug, it's called a bitush pnimim makif, the striking on the screen, that he has a connection with the light, but it's negative, and he wants to purify. That he sees that by the way he received, it brought him to a limitation, that he can't work anymore, but as much he received in order to bestow, more than that, he can't. So, there's reflected light and judgment, and the limited vessels are revealed until it expands again from the next Partzuf. Also by the raising of the Masach from Tabu, from the first time he's in there, in that negative zivug supposedly. Then when he raises himself from Tabu and upward, so he's in a zivug, but such that are only to check himself, as much as he isn't ready to be a vessel to accept the light and to just let go of the state. The new vessels are revealed, new deficiencies.
Yeah, so new deficiencies appear. On the one hand, the departure happens all at once. I mean, there's no cause and effect in it. On the other hand, it sounds as if the created being has the possibility to recognize what he's made of.
It's always like that in spirituality. You have a decision in the Tabu to depart, to purify, but you can't do it at once. As Rabash said, the landlord tells the guest, leave, and he leaves, but when he leaves, he goes into all kinds of rooms till he leaves the house. That's how it is.
And this is the way by which we discover all these qualities?
There's no bit in spirituality. The decision is on the entire Kli, but the Kli is included from the 4 degrees. That is why it's revealed, because it goes through these 4 degrees. If in the Tabu it decided it's departing, so it's going to do it all the way till the Peh. But on every degree, he reveals again, he discovers, as much as his decision was deep, needed, as much as he's not connecting correctly with the upper light. Every time he reveals it upon his decision, as much as he has more deficiencies in order to correct. He's discovering that because of all these additional vessels. Let's say the Tagim and Otiyot.
The lights that depart, if I understand, it's the light of Nekudot. It's the zivugim of the degrees of Nekudot that came out. What's the difference between the zivug of Bina, of Yud Bet, between the degree of Tamim and the degree of Nekudot? Meaning there's a screen, there's a zivug, the light expands. What's the difference in this expansion of the light?
We need to understand that also Tamim and Nekudot, it's not Tamim like flavors that I'm tasting something. It's as much as I am bestowing by receiving and enjoying what I'm receiving from the host. That's called Tamim. Nekudot, as much as I'm limited in bestowing to the host, even though what I've received. Meaning it's an opposite tendency, but still it's all towards the host and bestowing to the host, the Tamim and the Nekudot. That's why the gap between the Tamim and Nekudot give us great discernments. As much as I could receive for the host, and as much as I just revealed that I can't receive. It's all towards bestowing to the host.
Can we ask another question?
Yes.
Rav,
good morning.
Good morning. I wanted to ask, how can we liken the state of the guest and the host to the state of the bitush, the striking between the surrounding light and the inner light? Because the more the host implores him, the guest acquiesces, he agrees to. But in the bitush, in the striking, it's an opposite state.
You're right, but it's something we have to scrutinize. It's I can't scrutinize it right now. There's also an inner philosophy in what you're asking. Write down the question. We'll scrutinize it because we're getting close to the third part of the lesson. Please, let's go.
We'll go to the next part, and before that, let's sing a song.
Rise to a new degree, you and me, right here and now. We are holding you up. We shall do and we shall hear. That's all we know. There's none else besides him, and we won't let go. This love has set us free. We are one plea, and we're living in unity. Oren, come and see how this love has set us free. We are one plea, and we're living in unity. Beyond the barriers, above the waves, awake in the dawn, we are holding you up. Armed with this Kabbalah, it's coming true. We are breaking through, we are holding you up. We're marching arm in arm, hand in hand, out of this desert into a new land. Oren, come and see how this love has set us free. We are one plea, and we're living in unity. Oren, come and see how this love has set us free. We are one in unity. More, come and see how this love has set us free. We are one plea, and we're living in unity. And we're living in
השיעור מבוסס על מאמרים מהספר כתבי בעל הסולם. את הספר ניתן להוריד באתר קבלה לעם, kab.co.il.
שלום, אנחנו לומדים את המאמר מצווה אחת של בעל...
Hello, we're reading the article 1 mitzvah. You can find it on Kabbalah.info. You can ask questions live on Cap TV, and selected questions will be asked during the lesson. So, one commandment.
האם אתה רוצה שנמשיך מאיפה שעצרנו, שזה בטור א' למטה, בכותרת חלק...
So, would you like us to continue from the part of the Torah concerning relations between man and man, or let's take it from the top? One commandment. If he performs one mitzvah, he is happy, for he has sentenced himself and the whole world to a scale of merit. There's no serving the Creator in keeping the mitzvot except in lishma, bring contentment to one's Maker. Yet our sages have already introduced the practice of engaging in Torah and mitzvot even in lo lishma. Since from lo lishma, he will come to lishma. Here we have a problem. It's obvious that what we have to do is to reach lishma. The only question is, what exactly does lishma mean? This is one thing, and another thing is, what does lo lishma mean? The correct lo lishma, from which we reach lishma for sure. If we examine these two discernments, we will understand the measure to which we're all wrong. That we don't know what lishma is, and furthermore, we don't know what lo lishma is. And therefore we're still helpless, uncorrected, neither coming closer to the end of correction or anything else, and it's a problem. Therefore, let's hope that he will give us the correct definitions regarding what lishma and lo lishma means, and which lishma is the correct, what is the correct lo lishma that leads us to lishma.
היא לקבל על עצמו
I say that the first and only mitzvah that guarantees the achievement of the aspiration to attain lishma is to resolve to not work for oneself, apart for the necessary works, to merely provide for one's sustenance. In the rest of the time, one will work for the public, save the oppressed and every creature in the world that is needing salvation. So we'll try to learn how to do it, because the only thing that the world needs is the knowledge of how to do it, how to reach the correct realization of these things. We have to know how can we benefit the public to the most. As he says here, that if we take care of them, if we take care of the public, then as a result of our correction, the more we break into the connection and help them be corrected, this way we advance the entire world toward the work of the Creator in order to give Him contentment, which is called lishma. So we have to know how to correct ourselves, how to help the public correct themselves, and this means that on our part, and in our times, there is enough abundance going around in the world for everyone. The only problem is education. For us to tell people and to teach them the way they're supposed to be connected. So, sure, if they implement it, then we will succeed. And this is called that. We have to work at our correction. And we have to work on our correction in order to correct the entire world. And when we will achieve our very first spiritual correction, we will also discover how much we're a part of the last generation, the general correction of the world, that we will not be let to advance in our corrections unless, or to the extent to which in our correction we will be able to correct the entire world, because we exist only for them. Now, we're still not under this limitation because we're not corrected yet, but once we get a corrected Kli, the limitation on its advancement will be the advancement of the world, that only according to the need of the world will we be able to advance ourselves, and in no other way. If you have questions, go ahead.
I don't know. It's hard not to feel that pain between what Bala Sulam is saying and how we can interpret it if we don't have a good interpreter. I mean, to help to work for his salvation and all that.
Yeah. It means it's about the correction of the Kli. The Creator has enough of everything. Food, anything. He says that if all people will be limited by, if they'll do what they need in order to sustain their basic needs on the beastly level, it's neither praised nor condemned. It's something that you have to do because the beast has to exist. It has to live. But everything else, they will work in devotion to connect everyone else, because in the connection between everyone is it possible to reveal the Creator among everyone. So this is how you do the correction. So
reading Bala Sulam without your help, you can really get lost and get confused. And there's a need to show the world where that root is And we can't approach it like this.
Yeah. We have to discover the need for the correction, which is only in our connection, not in each and every one of us in particular, but only in our connection. And therefore, each of us on the animate level has to receive what he needs in order to be able to exist. And we know that an animal doesn't want anything excessive, but only what it needs for its existence. And all the rest we actually have to dedicate to our connection. After each beast, after our beasts have their basic needs, it's neither praised nor condemned, because the animate level needs what it needs in order to survive, and that's it. And then the human degree in us can enjoy only mutual bestowal between us and the Creator. I think that arranging our life this way is the correct way, and this is how it's going to be at the end of correction. This is what we have to yearn for.
Okay, so I'll ask it differently. Last question. Our path, our base is upon what we call the faith in the sages. We have our teachers, Baal Sulam, Rabash, and yourself. What is the difference? What is it that we bring the sages' wisdom to the public?
That there are people that attain the spiritual world, and they tell us about the upper force that controls the whole of reality, that besides it, there is no other force that can do anything in reality, that its desire is such and such, to bring us to identify with it. And these are the stages that the entire world's going through right now, and therefore the entire world will suffer in a very short, direct, serious way unless they get on the path of correction. And therefore the wisdom of Kabbalah is being revealed, and Bnei Baruch, a group that can give an explanation and set an example for how should we advance toward the correction. Otherwise, up ahead, there are real problems that we can already now identify on the horizon, and not so much on the horizon anymore. It's anti-Semitism, there will be decisions against Israel, there will be bigger and bigger problems regarding us. We shouldn't delude ourselves, because we have to perform corrections and carry out our role. Yes, Amit.
Next question. Zvika.
Zvika is with us today.
He says the whole story is with one mitzvah. It's this one mitzvah. What is this one commandment?
To reach love of the Creator from love of the created beings, through love for the created beings, to reach love of the Creator. This is the one mitzvah, love. As it says, love another as thyself, is the great rule in the Torah.
He says the rest of the time, you work for the public and do all the stuff. What, are you capable of doing such a thing? And sustain yourself? How can we even sustain ourselves?
As much as you can, you work in a way that you have to sustain yourself, the family, and to invest all the rest in correcting the world. And we're not talking about that this is how we... It's not that everyone has to do it, but only those that want to serve the Creator, the Kabbalists, that receive from Him in order to bestow everything that He wants to give mankind, and to give it to them, and to connect mankind to us. And this is how we should do it in order to receive all the abundance from the Creator. We ourselves have to be the transition. And this is what he says, what it means to be the transition. This is really to receive for ourselves whatever we need in order to become that conduit. And only. Do you understand what an instrument that is a transition, how it works? It takes energy only in order to become a conduit. It needs a very small part of the energy in order for it to work. It's all in all a conductor.
And that's called Lo Lishma? We're in a transition of sort?
The transition is if we're in Lishma. It's being in Lishma that we really work toward what we're supposed to do.
So what's Lo Lishma here?
Lo Lishma is that we're incapable of being a conduit, a pipeline, but that we're still in time of preparation, that we can't make a conduit out of ourselves, that we still can't work in order to bestow, meaning that we still don't have the ability to connect the lower ones, the nations of the world, to connect them to us on the one hand, and on the other hand, to connect with the Creator, and to be the transition between the two. And this is our work, because above us is the Creator, beneath us are the vessels of the created beings, and we ourselves have to be as the Klipa of Noga, the middle third of Tiferet. This is our work.
I remember you once said that the Lo Lishma is also a certain spiritual state. Is there such a thing?
Sure, it's spiritual. We're scrutinizing how can we work as a transition. The preparation, this is also spiritual. Baal HaSulam said that to the extent to which we think about Lishma, and Lo Lishma, it's even more important. We can't grasp the importance of the Lo Lishma. When we're still in Lo Lishma, not understanding anything about what we're doing, but we scrutinize many things, and our work is one way or another something without which we can't achieve anything.
Meaning we're already in Lo Lishma, right? So wonderful, so we can advance from here. Let's move forward to the next question. Dennis Sandler is asking from Moscow, what assures that if we'll be in Lo Lishma, we'll for sure be in Lishma later? What assures us?
Nothing promises us anything. Only the Creator with His plan, if not by way of Torah, then by way of suffering. The third state is it already exists. It's promised. We'll get there for sure. Only we have the ability to show the Creator how much we agree with His plan, wanting to realize it ourselves, and according to the raising of man, we can show it to Him, how much we want His plan, how much we want the state of Gemar Tikkun, where we're together with Him in mutual love. That's the entire difference between reaching the end of correction by way of Torah or by way of suffering. But Gemar Tikkun, as he tells us, we'll get there for sure. Only we have to try and perform actions nonetheless, because otherwise it's disrespect toward the Creator. I don't know how to put it. I understand that we can't be holy all the time, but you have to put in more and more efforts. Go ahead.
Next question, Moshe. It's not clear what Lo Lishma is. What is that work of Lo Lishma?
It sounds like you really want to, that we really want to achieve Lishma. We scrutinize, what does the state of Lo Lishma mean? What is the state of Lishma? We're scrutinizing it, but we still can't keep it. Or we can keep Lishma to some extent, but usually we're in Lo Lishma, on and off. The state that we're still incapable is called Lo Lishma. This he explains in the introduction to Tess more elaborately. You can take definitions from there. The Lo Lishma, find the definition. I can't focus right now.
There's a definition from Baal HaSulam, from the introduction to Tess, 12.
From Lo Lishma to
Yes, Lo
Lishma.
Lishma. The engagement in Torah and mitzvot of Lo Lishma means when he believes in the Creator and the Torah, and in reward and punishment, and he engages in Torah, which the Creator commanded to do so, but shares his own enjoyment with the bringing of contentment to his Maker.
This is the thing, that still his vessels aren't clear. But alongside with it, he understands the goal, he understands the correct state, but he still doesn't have sufficient power in order to sustain himself.
Another quote from Rabash, that the dispute of tomorrow is better than having any dispute. We should know that the degree of Lo Lishma is a very important degree, and we have no intellect to appreciate the importance of Torah and mitzvot in Lo Lishma. Baal HaSulam said that as much as a person considers the work in Lo Lishma and how important it is, he needs to know that even the Lo Lishma is even more important than Lishma, where a person gives an important, because one is not qualified to appreciate the importance of Torah and mitzvot, but certainly this observance of Torah and mitzvot needs to be in Lishma.
But the work in Lo Lishma, it can really be much harder than the work in Lishma. Because in Lo Lishma, a person's in doubt, he's making efforts, and in Lishma, he's also making efforts, but he already received the power, the strength to do it. He's already in connection with the Creator. There's a difference. And therefore, as he says in some other place, the main thing is to cross this passage, this transition called Lo Lishma, and to reach Lishma.
I'd like to continue asking. From the first excerpt, I'm reminded by a story that the Hasid from Kotsk was with another disciple from Hungary, and he used to say that, he's not eating for his own benefit, but for the sake of Shabbat. And the disciple of Kotsk said, I eat only for my own delight. It's not clear that when they say that we need to teach women, the youngsters, in Lo Lishma, that Lo Lishma, how is it taught? Until we reveal this.
Well, this is already related to a scrutiny regarding dissemination. As a Kotsk Chassid, he only wanted to insinuate that there has to be a scrutiny regarding the state one's in, what vessels do you work with, so we'll have no doubt that we are in the true scrutiny. In order to receive, or in order to bestow, or I'm willing in some way to cross from in order to receive to in order to bestow, but not to lie to oneself. The Kotsk Chassids, they were very concerned with speaking the truth in this respect, but in terms of dissemination, we know that it doesn't really work, and it's also forbidden for us to be that way. But we have to come down to the degree of a child or a baby and to explain to him how to. You have to raise a child in his own ways. And the way we turn to the public and the different types of public and different types of nations, it's forbidden for us to talk this way. It's forbidden for us to disregard anything. And even though that here in the relations, we see the relations between the Kabbalist and man here, this isn't the correct attitude. This is something that we shouldn't learn from them. A religious person, he gives thanks, he feels that he's doing a mitzvah. This is something that he was taught how to do from childhood. These are his vessels. So what are you doing? You're breaking him. We shouldn't do that. You shouldn't put an obstacle before a blind person. And also, we don't turn to religious people. But we have to turn only to those people that have no other obligations, they have no problem, that they have no idea what does it mean to do for the sake of the Creator, not for the sake of spirituality, not for the sake of spirituality. For them it makes no difference. And the religious people, they're already in some respect working toward the Creator and serving the Creator, and therefore to tell them that no, this isn't the way to do it, it's a problem. So we're not turning to religious people. We don't want to change anything regarding religion. It doesn't interest us. What we want are the people that are unrelated to religion, are unrelated to any other method, and to explain to them what does the Creator truly demand of His creatures.
Last question, maybe from the internet. Irgenat from Kazakhstan is asking whether lo lishma is when the ego agrees with the work of bestowal to the Creator. Where should he get the forces to jump from lo lishma to lishma?
Lo lishma, we have to try and realize it as much as we can to reach from lo lishma lishma. Of course, we ourselves are incapable of it, but that this connection is made by the upper, by the Creator, that we're making sufficient efforts in lo lishma, and we don't exactly know is it sufficient or not. It's like sometimes we go through different states that we have no idea where do they come from. So this is how we accept the lishma. Like it says in the introduction to Tess, I think, that after the emanator gave man enough exertion, then he merits, and so on. You can find it.
Iran, please. Rav, hello. We wanted to announce that today at 4:30 we're going to have a common festive meeting with all the tens, with food that will be broadcast on Svivat Tova. What we were planning in the content on this meeting was a lesson that you gave on the importance of playing the greatness of the Creator against indifference. That was before the Congress in New Jersey. But the friends feel that this morning you truly took us to a new direction, to a new depth of the whole topic of acting the greatness of the Creator and building the desirable state and the existing state. We would like to get direction from you. What is right for us to do today in this meeting so that we will be able to implement in the best possible way what we've been through in the first part today? I would truly recommend this first hour that we talked, even that first hour and 15 minutes or an hour and a half, to hear it again. If there will be questions, gather them, and we will scrutinize them. And in general, engage in that all the time. Yes, that's the next step, the next degree. I can't. I'll tell you, it's not that I decide these things of what to give, but rather a lesson comes, and all of a sudden, the ability to talk in a new depth is revealed, in a new manner, a more advanced way. And I do that. That's why I understand that I, by doing so, maybe break your preparations for lessons. That's truly a topic that's maybe different, but it's desirable to do it as we spoke today. Yes, the desirable versus the existent, and to raise man to it and raise it upwards. And now, what are you doing as regularly from like 1:30 to 3? Well, first of all, the friends don't feel like it's breaking something. On the contrary, that it's a new degree. So at 1:30 we will actually watch again the morning lesson. Meaning in the afternoon lesson we will watch the first hour and 15 minutes. And then the question is that later in the festive meeting, how to take the material from that lesson to the next step. In the festive meeting, that will be at 4:30. Yes, from 4:30 to 5:30. Oh, after the meal, probably. Okay. I don't know. That's already your work. You need to discuss that and try to talk about it in all different manners, and so it will be clear to you how you're approaching it. But these are actions in practice. Yeah, listen to it once or twice, doesn't matter how many, and you'll see what to do. There's no more than an exercise here, but a very important exercise that needs to be observed, and do it until it starts to be realized. Okay, so we will tell our friends actually that at 1:30 we will have the broadcast of the first part. If there are recommendations for the discussion for 3:30 for 4:30 meeting, if there are suggestions, send it to the regular mail of Unity Chevra, and you're invited to bring potluck kind of food. It'll be broadcast so the friends in the world can join us, and we'll try to implement this new degree between us. L'chaim.
Rav, do
you want to add something to summarize, or should we move to the daily task?
Rav, לא שומעים אותך, אתה על mute.
Rav is muted. I'm sorry. May you have a good day, a good preparation for the holiday, and may we start to implement what we talked about today. It's already, there are several stages here of examination. How the Creator, if He were to clothe Himself in us, what are we missing for Him to clothe Himself? The scrutiny of man and the address to Him, the appeal to Him, for Him to do it. Meaning there are several stages here that together need to also be in the group, also in the scrutiny, in raising man and prayer and everything. There's truly a complete exercise here. I'm happy we have come to this stage as well. Let's try to implement it. We are definitely in preparation for great things. And so long. We'll be in contact. We're always together with you. Thank you, Rav, and we're going to move to the daily task, please. With us today were 10 number 2 of Brazil, 10 number 1 from Russia, from Britain, Western Galilee, and 10:23 from Petach Tikva. And the daily task throughout the day, every friend examines his state relative to the corrected state of the 10, and thus constantly tries to be in the increasing request. Throughout the day, each friend examines his state compared to the corrected state of the 10 and tries to be like that all the time. Thank you to our TV viewers and good day. Acquaintance with the wisdom of Kabbalah. The Kabbalah La'am campus is happy to invite you to acquaintances in 10 different cities across the country during May. It's 30 shekel to enter and RSVPing. Details CABCOIL or on 1-700-509-209. Together in the Academy, as we're opening a new round of academic studies, you're invited to a special happening that will be on Friday, the 8th of June, 12:30 from 10 to 12:30. Summary of the lesson. Each writes silently a summary of the lesson, quietly. The summary of the lesson with a few sentences, please. Every friend is invited to share his summary of the lesson on Tzivot Tova, and now we're going to do a special action. Notice, we're going to enter into gratitude together. We will devote 2 minutes, and then we will sing a song together, the words of Rav to direct us on this gratitude. At the end of the lesson, sit silently and be thankful. Be thankful for having a nice lesson, and we tried as much as possible to be directed to you. And now we are walking out of this meeting between us, and you will protect us so that we will remain connected upon all the events of life that we'll probably absorb now. We're entering this gratitude.
תודה לכולם, יום טוב, ועכשיו...
Thank you to everyone. Good day, and we'll sing a song together.
בעולם לכל אחד שמור מקום מיוחד בנשמה, בהגשמה, כמו מופע בקונצרט, מפסנתר עד קלרינט, לכל אחד תפקיד מיוחד. ישרת, זה תפקיד עם ישראל, לייחד את בני תבל. היום זה כבר גלוי, רק בנו זה תלוי, איך אור גדול לשטוף את העולם. ישרת, זה תפקיד עם ישראל, העולם לזה כבר מייחל. כאיש אחד נהיה, בלב אחד נחיה, הבטחנו זאת באוהל אברהם, הבטחנו באוהל אברהם, שתהיה